Good morning.
Good morning.
Today is Sunday, January 4th, 2026. And here we are. I have a title for this talk this morning. It's Getting There versus Being There. And I got on to what I want to talk about partly from reading a book which someone sent to me or recommended to me. And the book is called The Molecule of More. It's written by Daniel Z. Lieberman and Michael E. Long. I found it in some cases a little simplistic and a little disjointed, but it really highlights a very important point, just basic to practice, basic to Buddhist teaching. It's a distinction between here and there. Don't even think about it a lot of the time. But there are two completely different ways of relating to what is, to the world. We can be here, we can be focused on there. I think when they begin the book, they suggest that you just look down, everything there, it's right there, and then look up. See a book on a shelf or a candle on the altar that's out of adjustment. You have to go there and do something. You have to reach out. We divide the world that way into us and them, to inside and outside. Between what you have and what you can get. And there are neurotransmitters and neuromodulators and any number of different brain chemicals, neurological chemicals that highlight each of those realms. And if many people know, the molecule of more, if you had to guess, you'd be right. It's dopamine. We hear a lot about dopamine. And I always had a kind of simplistic view of it, which was dopamine was a feel-good chemical. But that's really not what it does. It's the contrast that they frame the book with is between dopamine and the so-called here and now chemicals, or H and N's. And those are serotonin, people have heard of that, oxytocin, endorphins, and endocannabinoids. Sounds like cannabis. And they are like cannabis. And of course, endorphins, that's basically the morphine that the body naturally makes. It's all way more complicated than that. For instance, oxytocin is known as the feel-good chemical that sort of enhances our connection with other people. But it does a lot of things, and it actually can be a cause of postpartum depression. A lot of oxytocin is released when a mother nurses a baby, both to the mother and to the baby. And in fact, oxytocin is released when you pet a dog, both to you and to the dog. And generally, that's kind of a wonderful thing. But nature doesn't waste stuff. And a chemical that does one thing in one place does something else in another place. And it's kind of a big, glorious mix. And you can keep going deep forever. It's kind of like a Mandelbrot set. It's just the deeper you look, the more complications and innovations and differences that you see. But it's kind of fascinating. It must be why I read these books. So dopamine, outside of drug use, and there are drugs that trigger dopamine release. They're among the most addictive drugs. Dopamine in our natural life, before we smoked or drank or shot up anything, is released by what's called prediction error. Something suddenly surprises you with potential, with possibility. You walk into a restaurant and they have your favorite food, or there's a wonderful smell. Walking down the street and you find a $20 bill lying under a tree. We're programmed to take note of stuff we want that suddenly appears. Primitive people walking through the forest. A woman might find a berry bush with great berries. She's going to remember where that bush is. And dopamine is a lot of how that happens. That's what it's for. It's a motivator. This is going to be great. When you get there and you want it to be great, dopamine's not much use at all. There's a phrase I read in this book. Somebody said, when I snort a line of cocaine, I feel like a new man. And the first thing that new man wants to do is to snort another line of cocaine. That's why they call it the hedonic treadmill. There's never enough. Dopamine is not the molecule of enough. It's the molecule of more. And it's easy to sort of get confused. We need motivation. And dopamine helps to motivate us for everything we do to stay alive, to secure food, shelter, safety, status, all the things that make us more environmentally fit, more likely to pass our genome down to our descendants. Helps us to multiply and be fruitful. It rewards you when you obey, and it punishes you when you don't. Fuels the exhilaration of getting on the path to success. The feeling this is going to work. I'm going to get what I want. And it fuels, by dying out, by no longer being produced, it fuels the misery of resisting its call. It hurts to say no. When you're suddenly caught up in something you want to get, it's very hard to stop. Oscar Wilde, the English wit, said, "I can resist anything except temptation." It's interesting to watch that when you're trying to resist that extra donut. Just to watch what that feels like. It doesn't feel good. And if we're not really paying attention, we have another donut. I know I do. They're great. So it's the key to all addictive behaviors. You can be guaranteed that dopamine is involved, and as I say, it's triggered by surprise, by a happy surprise. This is going to be great, and if that surprise comes randomly, if you can't predict it, then dopamine keeps doing its thing. And this is the reason why the most profitable aspect of gambling casinos is slot machines. You know, people don't make all their money at the roulette table or with the shows or whatever they put on. It's. I think I read that 80% of their profit comes from people coming into a into a casino. Yeah, I almost said sashid there. Coming into a casino and playing the slots, because it's shiny and exciting, and there's a lever you get to pull, and things whirl around, and all of a sudden 3 cherries line up, and money, cash, coins spill out of the thing. It's wonderful. And people will sit there all day just pulling that lever. Kind of reminiscent of the rats pushing a bar to get cocaine, which is an experiment that great scientists have done. Most people have heard this, but you can have a food dish or a water dish out in a bar that releases, I guess the rat is hooked up in some way, releases a little drip of one of those chemicals into the rat, and rats will push the bar until they collapse. They won't go for the food. They won't go for the water. It's so powerful. And it's something that we produce naturally. Our lives present us. You don't need to take a drug to be addicted. Slot machines are a great example. Another one is your cell phone. So many people. It's boggling to me, having grown up long before cell phones existed, to be in public places, in a theater, let's say, and see that more than half the people there are scrolling through their phones. Sometimes part of that majority is me. I find myself with reasons why I need to take a look at the screen. And, of course, everything about the phone has been designed to trigger engagement. Get that molecule coursing through our system. And every now and then, as you doom scroll, you come across something great. And then you can send it to your friends and get likes. Again, it's that random reinforcement that is far more predictable, or far more powerful than what's predictable. Some people are more attuned to this, are more achievement-oriented, more dopamine-driven. And a lot of times those people do great things. A lot of scientists and inventors, artists, creators are really fueled by that. And a lot of them aren't really able to enjoy their lives. So many miserable people who are busy getting things done. From an evolutionary standpoint, that's great. We need those people. But for the people themselves, not so great. The book goes into a story, which I'm not going to recount, just about the astronaut Buzz Aldrin, who just totally achievement-oriented guy. I think all those astronauts really pretty remarkable people. But here's a guy who's the first man to walk on the moon. And, he recited those lines, which were no doubt scripted for him beforehand. One small step for a man, one giant step for mankind. But when he was asked to talk about it, he really didn't have much to say. Just talked about, everything was, engineered properly and it worked correctly and we just executed the program. And then, of course, it's on to the next thing. We have this idea that we're going to get somewhere and then we'll be happy. Then we'll enjoy it. It's never enough. The imagined future never measures up because it's not the unexpected. Once we get there, once we've established ourselves, it's routine. It's the shift that people make from romantic love to a life's companion. There's a change. There's different brain chemicals involved, and some people can't make that switch. They're continually chasing, looking for the conquest, looking for the excitement, looking for the high, the thrill. There are thrills and there's deep contentment. And there's two different systems. Nothing wrong with thrills. It's great. You feel alive. But you need to be able to settle in. Need to be able to be okay. Need to be able to be still. Of course, this is all very reminiscent of what everybody here already knows, because this is the teaching of the Buddha. It's really the second noble truth. The cause of suffering. The first noble truth is life is suffering. Life is dukkha, dissatisfaction. The cause of suffering is desire. Or we could say attached, desire with attachments. Needing things to be a certain way. Worrying when they're not. It's desire, it's attachment, and it's ignorance. We don't see how it works. We fail to see that we're chasing what's impermanent. Another formulation of the Buddhas is three aspects of reality: suffering, impermanence, and no self. We're not a thing. Anthony de Mello said, "The tragedy of an attachment is that if its object is not attained, it causes unhappiness. But if it is attained, it does not cause happiness, it merely causes a flash of pleasure followed by weariness. And it is always accompanied, of course, by the anxiety that you may lose the object of your attachment." So it's natural to want things. It's not the problem. The problem is that attachment, that not being okay with not getting what we want. not being able to order what we want and enjoy what we get. We overestimate the importance of what we want. We want to succeed. We want to get a good job. We want to have money. We want to have a partner. And yet, the world is full of people who don't have those things, and nevertheless they're happy. It's one of the real eye-openers for me when my family and I went to Mexico and saw so many people who were so poor and so goddamn happy. I'm sure they had plenty that they weren't happy about. Being poor is not a ticket to enlightenment. But you begin to understand that all the things that you're so worried about are not what really matters. Of course, get a job if you need a job. Provide for yourself, provide for your family, do the things you need to do. But you really need to wake up to what's here. It helps to see this clearly, and maybe if we saw it clearly enough, we'd be able to get off the treadmill. But our long-established habits don't die easily. And so, good practice, Zen practice, takes time, takes humility. You have to understand how it works, because what we want only happens now. Practice only happens now. It's fine to think it's going to be wonderful when my practice is more developed and I'm able to be in the present. But wait a minute. The present is now. This is now. We think of now as a way station on the way to someplace wonderful. Charlotte Joko Beck said, "The perfect moment is this one, not the one that has just passed or the one that is about to come." And the Indian sage Ramana Maharshi said, "There's no greater mystery than this, that we keep seeking reality, though in fact we are reality. We think there's something hiding reality and that this must be destroyed before reality is gained. How ridiculous. A day will dawn when you will laugh at all your past efforts. That will be and that which will be on the day you laugh is also here now." There isn't any better way than spiritual practice, whether it's Zen practice or some other practice. The dogged returning to the matter at hand, the willingness to feel what you feel, see what's in front of you, relax into your life. There isn't any other better way. We gradually marinate in truth, in reality. But it's very easy with a spiritual practice to get caught up in grasping, because we do have a goal. we chant, "Rouse the desire for enlightenment." It's not utter foolishness. But the foundation of our practice is faith. Faith that we have everything we need. The Buddha said, "All beings are whole and complete, lacking nothing. But because their minds are turned upside down, they fail to perceive this. This tendency to grasp, to look outside yourself, to cast your mind into the future when your mind will be settled and you'll be present, as if you weren't present now. This is easy to fall into. It's especially easy with koan practice. It's easy for that to get into greed and tension. The key to koan practice, as people have heard before, is raising the doubt sensation. Why is it, if I'm whole and complete, I don't see that? If I am reality, why don't I know that? This was Zen Master Dogen's great doubt. Why do I have to struggle? It's archetypal, that struggle. And in the end, we find ourselves at home. When we wake up to what the Buddha says, what Ramana Maharshi says, that it is right here, that we are reality, things begin to change. It's not that it's there and I have to get it. It's here. Why don't I see it? How can I be more here? Over time, we begin to learn to settle in, begin to drop our projections, our manipulations. Begin to remember how to breathe. Some of that joy that we felt as children begins to seep into our lives, here and there. It's when we begin to realize that we're on the right path. People are afraid to relax. There's this image of practice as gritting your teeth and clenching your fists. Sometimes we do that. There's a Japanese Rinzai teacher. Many people have been to his temple in Japan. So Genji, his name is Shodo Harada Roshi. It's a different Harada Roshi than Daiyon Harada, who was first teacher of Roshi Kapleau. But Shodo Harada said this about practice. He said, open yourself up as much as possible. This opening is the point of Zazen. In fact, the mind becomes clearer in Zazen not through forced concentration, but through ever-expanding openness. As we liberate our awareness, it becomes larger and more vast. To achieve this openness, you need to relax completely. When you feel sleepiness or mental distraction coming on, When you find yourself getting fuzzy in your focus, don't try to focus harder. Just rest your eyes on the point in front of you in a way that you're clearly aware of it without forcing your concentration upon it. True one-pointed attention does not involve concentrating on one thing and shutting everything else out, but rather opening your awareness, or we could say letting it open, so that everything is seen clearly. That opening, we have to be willing to let it in. Sometimes what we open up to is painful. Maybe it's the physical pain of Zazen. It's memories that come up. Seeing our own failings, selfishness. Zazen practice is never a steady improvement. It's up and down. We see a lot of bad shit. Being open means being willing to take it in. Being willing to see what's there. It's really about acceptance. There's a lot of things happening in the world today that we can't control. There's a lot of pain and suffering. It's needless, of course, if people would just do what we want them to do. It's just what's there. We don't know where it leads. Things get bad, and they get good. If they get bad, they'll get good again. If they get good, they'll get bad again. It's our vain and hopeless desire to be able to steer the path of history that makes us so miserable. When we find some acceptance, we realize this is my life, this is the way it is right now, then we have a chance at relaxation, at confidence, at contentment. We have a solid basis. We know we're on the right path. Not chasing a high, not seizing control, but appreciating what we have. Somebody asked the great master Joshu, when times of great difficulty visit us, how should we meet them? Joshu said, welcome. Life is not a problem to solve. Somebody said, when you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Chris, my wife, sent me a Substack piece recently. It's kind of a rant. I love rants. Credit the right guy here. He's a guy named Hans Castiels. And the title of this particular rant is How the Animals Solved Life While We Invented PowerPoint. He says, birds negotiate airspace without litigation. Insects perform labor without mission statements. Plants quietly do what plants have done for a few 100 million years without rebranding. And it becomes impossible not to notice that the animals seem to have figured out things we are still holding conferences about. This daily observation suggests two uncomfortable possibilities. Either we are not nearly as bright as we think we are, or the theory of intelligent design needs to explain why intelligence appears to have peaked somewhere around the squirrel. Every morning, the natural world wakes up and politely demonstrates how badly we are doing at being alive. This is not done with lectures or TED Talks or laminated wellness pamphlets. It is done with birds that migrate without Google Maps, trees that know exactly when to drop their leaves without consulting a committee. Parenthetically, George Bernard Shaw said, except for the 9 months in the womb, no man manages his affairs as well as a tree. The wildlife does not gloat. It simply gets on with things. We like to think of ourselves as the apex species. We invented antibiotics, space probes, and air fryers. Surely this puts us ahead of deer, crows, and whatever lives confidently inside a tide pool. And yet here we are, still arguing about whether sleep matters, whether stress kills you, whether death itself is some sort of personal failure that might be avoided with enough green juice and moral superiority. Meanwhile, the rest of the planet has quietly figured out a few fundamentals. This guy evidently is a stage 4, has stage 4 prostate cancer. I'm not sure where things stand, but he's really sensitive to our feelings, the feelings we have that everything is a problem to overcome. Talks a little bit about cancer. Says animals get cancer, trees get cancer. Even the dinosaurs, had they been examined closely enough, probably had a few rogue cells doing what cells have always done when given time and opportunity. Life is a messy process built on constant cell division. Errors are not a design flaw, they are the cost of admission. The wildlife understands this in its bones, which are not busy demanding explanations. What the natural world seems to have mastered, and what we stubbornly resist, is acceptance without resignation. This does not mean giving up. Animals fight infections, plants respond to injury, bodies attempt repair with impressive persistence. But there is no narrative overlay about deservingness, no existential bookkeeping, no belief that perfect behavior should be rewarded with immortality. Things happen, responses follow. The story does not need embellishment. Humans cannot leave it at that. We demand meaning, and when none is apparent, we manufacture it. We tell ourselves that disease is a lesson, a test, or a call to spiritual growth. We ask, what is it trying to teach us? As though mutated cells were running a curriculum. We say everything happens for a reason, which is comforting right up until you think about it for more than 3 seconds. The wildlife has never said this sentence. Yeah, that's a good rant. And I'm going to finish up with one more quote from an ancient Chinese master, Fa Yan. I'm not even sure who he is. He says, when will you stop competing? Before you realize the scenery of spring has turned to autumn. The leaves fall, the geese migrate, the frost gradually grows colder. Clothed and shod, What more do you seek? Okay, we'll stop here and recite the 4 vows.